Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be talking about something which a lot of people are going to be interested in. Screen time in kids. Before we headed into the pandemic, everyone was gaga over reducing screen time, getting rid of handhelds, getting rid of computers, and reducing TVs. Welcome to the pandemic where pretty much everything you did, work, play, school, entertainment, keeping up with your friends, was all screen time. So let's take a step back and revisit what happens in that screen time bubble as we exit this pandemic. And let's figure out together what the best go-to tips are and what is state of the art. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Nene, a US trained cardiac, thoracic, and vascular surgeon and a general surgeon. As a healthcare innovator and a health tech innovator, I want to empower you to your best health ever. On this channel, we will share evidence-based medicine from all of us to you through our experiences and training about health and healthcare. The goal is to help you make informed decisions about your own health as well as that of your loved ones. We're here for you, so don't hesitate to reach out. And remember, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the like button, and share it with your friends, because our goal is very simple: to start a dialogue with everyone to better their health. And on that note, how much does your child view a screen in any given day? I would love to know, so leave it in the comments below. So let's talk a little bit about screen time. It was not so long ago that not every house had televisions, but now they have multiple televisions. And worse than the televisions, we all have face phones and phones with big screens, or iPads, or laptops. It's become all the rage. It was very frequent before the pandemic that I would see parents take their kids who are under the age of 10 to restaurants and often give an iPad to babysit them. And I would just say to myself that, look, this is interesting. All of a sudden they got a built-in babysitter and the parents can go to a restaurant. But then I started thinking, what happens to these kids? And as I asked these questions, we looked up these topics and we wanted to bring them to you. And so it's come to the point where the Centers for Disease Control in the US did a study, and I found the results very interesting. In the 8 to 10-year-old group, they were watching up to 6 hours of screens in a day. It went up in the 11 to 14-year-old group to approximately 9 hours. And in the 15 to 18-year-old group, it came down a little bit to 7.5 hours. I guess they got school time, but nowadays school time is screen time, or it was at least until a little while ago. What does that do to you, and how does that change your thinking? And the thought is, and the studies have shown, that it does have a hand in increasing obesity, because sedentary behaviors sitting in front of television are very common. And that's true for kids as well as adults. The second thing is, it can lead to aggression, frustration, or even putting yourself into different situations and really making it difficult. It's also been shown to decrease scholastic productivity and can be a factor with poor grades. And then if you watch close to bedtime, there's a high risk of you not being able to sleep. And it's something to do with the blue screen light and the white screen light and whatnot, and that does have a factor. Beyond that, there are other side effects of too much screen time in a given day. So the question is, what is the right amount of screen time? And interestingly, the American Academy of Pediatrics came up with some numbers. And below the age of 18 months, they suggest not having any screen time whatsoever. You can perhaps have some background music or something like that. Between the age of 2 and 5, no more than 1 hour, and that 1 hour should be with a parent or in a setting where you are working together. And then from 5 to 17, ideally no more than 2 hours per day. And so you're gonna say to me, well, Dr. Nene, what's the deal? You know, my kids have been on Zoom, on this, that, the other, let alone the parents, but the kids have done that now. And they all have camera phones or face phones. So how do you deal with that? I think there's several different tips which can be used. The first is you can remove screens from the table. So when you're eating dinner, make it a social event. I had a rule in my house where we would take the phones and put them in a nice little box, and everyone would have to talk to each other. Imagine that. The second thing is, when you are in your bedrooms, don't have a phone. I had an interesting friend who on their residence level, they had entertainment level and a residence level, the second floor, they didn't have any Wi-Fi. So even if you had a screen or a phone, you couldn't use it. I found it very novel, a little draconian, because if you had to do any work, it would be tough. But it worked pretty well to keep the kids off their phones and playing games and doing everything else. Then the third is to limit the amount of screen time to a minimum according to the American Academy of Pediatrics rules, and see what effect that has. Now the interesting part is a lot of the new phones, including the Apple iOS system and Android, will give you the amount of screen time you get per week. So it's pretty easy to track that. And my hope is as we come out of hibernation and the pandemic, people are going to start to go out again and do stuff. But I am seeing a lot of people getting into the habits which are very poor from the pandemic, where they're on their phones, answering emails, doing this, doing that. And you've seen what happens in adults, let alone kids. Lastly, it's all about having a relationship. And I think some of that's forgotten now. A lot of times we'll be at the table and everyone's on their phone checking their emails, looking at SMS, getting drawn into Facebook, or Instagram, or doing something else. I think we need to change that trend. So in conclusion, screen time and too much of it does have observed adverse effects. You can counter that by actually engaging each other in social conversation and interacting together. You will have significant side effects if you don't observe the first two, but the bottom line is I think that screens are here to stay no matter what we do, and that includes not just the phones but also televisions and whatnot. Try not to feed them in front of the TV, try not to do every activity in front of a screen, and try to take it outside or do other things. Now you're all saying to me, well, Doc, we just got out of a pandemic. I agree with you, and it's going to be hard. But at least do your best to reduce it. And in doing that, I think you're going to see improved attention and decreased anxiety and improved outcomes overall. So I hope that you liked what we said. And if you did, subscribe to the channel, tell all your friends, and share it. Because I want to start a dialogue with you, and in particular, this screen time issue was one I needed to look up because my kids are on the screens as well as us. Now, they're a little bit older, but still, I think it's important to figure this out together. So let's do it and move ahead. Thanks for joining me.